Hi, I'm Naked, and I play a lot of Vel'Koz. He's quite possibly my favorite champion in League of Legends and has been for the past 3 to 4 years at this point. I have over a million mastery points on him, and I've been playing him for quite a while in many different meta types, from hyper mobile burst assassins being the most overpowered thing ever, to the pendulum swinging opposite end of the spectrum with 80 carries being in every single lane, and even now in our current tank meta. He performs varyingly well in all metas, but he's never too weak that he can't be played at all. And what I'm really trying to do with this video, it's not so much teach someone how to play him or really even explain how to play him, just trying to get people to understand why he is fun to play and why the dying archetype of artillery mages is kind of dying down also, to just kind of get more people into it. So I'd like to go over just a few things that I like and dislike about my favorite champion, as well as give a couple examples of each of those things. And I'm just going to have a random game playing in the background. I'm not a video editor or really anything like that. I just wanted to talk about Vel'Koz a little bit and get people a little more excited about what he is and what he can do. So first and foremost, about a year or two ago, an insanely talented League of Legends player named Azap was, he really put Vel'Koz out on the scene, and he gained a lot of traction with ideas varying from being nice to your team and being a better sportsman to a non-surrender philosophy, all the while playing the game with Vel'Koz, who is renowned for being a weaker champion. Everyone knows that, and he's playing him in the highest levels possible. He's European, he's on solo queue. If you want to see a guide on how to play Vel'Koz, or you want to see crazy combos with him, I can't say enough. Like, you just go watch Azap. He's way better than me. I'm average, but I'm excited about Vel'Koz, and I want to talk about him. So, in my opinion, he's the best Vel'Koz player in the world, and it also comes down to him also being simply one of the best players in the world, because, again, Vel'Koz is a mechanically simple champion. His decision-making is what makes him good, and your decision-making is what makes you good with him as well. So, again, this is not a video to talk about strategies on Vel'Koz, really, or a mentality while playing him. I'm Hardstock Gold 1. If you want an instructional video on how to get better at Vel'Koz, this may help you, but for the most part, I'm trying to break down how I and every man have fun with my favorite champion, and hopefully it'll get some people to play him too. Vel'Koz is a weaker champion and will never be a constant like Ahri. He's also not as skill expressive as Zed or Sylas. However, you can still pull off teamfight changing ultimates, and with just a little bit more experience on him, you're able to impact the game in slight but noticeable ways throughout the course of the entire match. The love that I have for Vel'Koz comes from his simplicity. The reward for doing well on him throughout the match is like a slow drip of dopamine that just comes in ever so slightly every time you land one of those long range Qs, or a combo into your ultimate on 2 to 3 players that results in your team killing somebody, or someone flashes away and you catch them off guard with one of your crazy angles on your Q that no one's expecting, and then you end up getting another kill for your team that way. It just feels really good that way, and it can be a little explosive, someone who pulling off flashy plays on Zed and things like that, but it's unique in its own way that it's performed, and you can really feel your mastery growing with him the more you play him. I understand that that was an irritatingly average and vague explanation of champion mastery, but when it comes to a mechanically simple champion like Vel'Koz, it needs to be addressed that the dopamine key bump of hitting those long angle, crazy shot Qs can only hold you off so long until you kind of get a feel that you need to end up doing something else, like something more exciting. And that's where your positioning and different types of playing that comes in that you can really only learn by spending more time with artillery mages, and you can kind of manipulate where your opponents go based on where you put yourself. Where you play Vel'Koz matters a lot, and so does the team you play with and against as him. He has a somewhat versatile build path, so you can cope with most enemy team comps, but you do have to remember that you're a skill shot mage, with almost all of your damage being gated behind your 3-hit passive. That means your skill directly correlates with how much damage you're going to be able to do, and this is 2025 League of Legends, where mobility creep has hit its arguable highest of all time. So landing those skill shots is harder than ever, and it kind of can really mess you up and can be a little disheartening. Vel'Koz isn't a champion you play because he's the best on the market. It's a thing of love and finding a place for him in current metas, honestly. People play Sona these days when there's Seraphine and Lulu. It's about how you play him and where, not so much that there are better options, but just because you have fun with him. That being said, there really are only 2 options for Vel'Koz, mid and support. I will say outright that my favorite is support because I get to fight 2 people and have an ally with me to fend off ganks. I enjoy fighting on Vel'Koz, and it really is his main thing. You bring unbridled violence and damage to the game. You don't heal, you don't shield, and you have very little CC. Your way of keeping your AD carry safe is by being the most deadly floating squid you can be, and I find that to be insanely satisfying. I also enjoy mid lane Vel'Koz, but it requires more experience with him, and you really have to understand where you need to be and when. You can, of course, just sit mid and farm safely all game long, but you will not be very useful to your team this way unless it's a very unique situation. Vel'Koz brings damage and zoning potential, and if you're not using those things to your advantage by causing fights or defending objectives, you almost are hindering your team by playing a weaker champion like him and not capitalizing on what he's. You can start playing Vel'Koz in either role, be that mid or support. But like I said at the start, his kit is very simple and it doesn't take too long to understand. So the rest of it comes down to game sense and experience with him and League in general, which at this point, most people have in spades. Just due to how old and addictive League is, most people understand the course of a game by this point. And you really need to use that with Vel'Koz because, again, he's mechanically simple. So the majority of what you do with him comes down to what you can do at certain points of the game. So here's a list of champions that you will inevitably learn to hate and despise, but you only get one ban per game, so reserve that for your uniquely most despised champion. Or just raw dog this game and play Swift play, but who the hell am I kidding? No one really plays that often, even though the clips in this video, I'm playing it just because I wanted to guarantee that I was able to play my champion. So first and foremost, you have Zed. I've mentioned him multiple times in this video. Every mage hates Zed. Vel'Koz is long range, yes, but so is Zed. He also roams better, and he can safely clear waves. Basically, everything about Zed is frustrating to deal with, but you have to learn to lane versus him if you want to play mid. Sometimes you will just lose. Get used to it and try to keep the lead as close as you can, otherwise known as lose gracefully and don't tilt. Team fights is your time to shine. And then we come on to LeBlanc. She is absolute bullshit, and you will be pulling your hair out against her, similarly to Zed. But it's a little bit worse because even if you are getting her ass all lane, her passive will somehow always manage to save her. I don't have any footage of this, but hopefully you can understand what I'm saying. She goes invisible, and a clone of her appears that can block your skill shots. It causes some real issues, and her dashes and high burst makes your range almost detrimental because she can straight up zone you off of CS if she's far enough ahead. Stay strong, soldier. And then there's Syndra. She's just broken in general and does way too much damage, and it's all AoE. Her stun has one of the more generous hitboxes in the game, and it causes a lot of headaches for you, even if you are ahead. You end up basing most of your plays in lane around whether or not she has her stun available. She can farm super easily and burst down your jungler easily if he gets caught at Dragon and so on. And she is one of the main ones that I would follow if she ever roams, just because her getting ahead is so detrimental and your range is far enough that you can safely stalk her without being in immediate danger. And Sylas, I mentioned him at the start, but here's another one that is just hyper mobile and he's all AoE. Not to mention the sound effects of playing against him is just jarring as hell, but maybe that's just me. Even if you get ahead of this man and if he is any type of competent, that champion, he will still be a threat to your entire team. You kind of have to learn his combos and go off that. Hypermobile champions like Sylas are kind of the bane of Vel'Koz, but that's just the state of the game nowadays. You're going to have to get over that if you're trying to play a slow, immobile mage. Every champion dashes, shields, heals, and has 2 more dashes to use. It's up to you how you want to approach him, but I will say this. If he steals your ultimate, it's pretty useless to him, honestly, because he doesn't get to access to your passive, so he's just standing there shooting a laser that only does like 700 magic damage over 2.5 seconds. That is your time to absolutely destroy him, because he's not moving. You can land all of your skill shots on him. If he does that, it's your time to shine and almost your responsibility to stop him. And Yone. Everyone hates Yone. I don't know what else to say. He's overloaded as all get out. You won't necessarily win lane if he's talented, but if you get lucky and they're kind of overconfident and you're knowledgeable about his kit, you have a strong chance if you get some help with a jungler or support on your side. This is one where my only real advice is to just lose lane gracefully and stalk him from a very safe distance if he roams. You want to be able to help your team if he shows up, but and then of course there's Mel and several other champions that you'll discover on your own if you give mid lane Vel'Koz a try. My advice with Mel is just do your best. Make sure that her Invulnerable is off cooldown before you go for an E combo. She is fun to play against, kind of, except for her instant Q, but she doesn't destroy you in lane as much as you would think once you get used to her. I understand that she's newer, but this is just a list of mid lane opponents that I have a hard time with myself, so I thought I'd throw it out there that maybe you could ban them when you get in game against them. Of course, they're, Fizz, Talon, all these other champions that are hard. I can go on for days. There's 170 something champions in the game. You're going to have to use your own best judgment to see which ones you dislike the most. Now I'm going to go over some champions that I have a hard time with when I play support. They're almost always just annoying. It's the same thing as mid lane, the hypermobile people. So I'm going to start with Pyke. Pyke is like all of the hook champs in bot lane, but on another level, because he will just straight up kill you. His passive makes poking him down seem pointless. It's not. And his all-ins are very intense. Just like the majority of this list, it's his mobility that causes you the most problems. It's a battle of pressure with him, and if he gets ahead of you, it's really an uphill battle until you try to get back after him. You really have to try and watch for when he uses his dash, and then that's when you can lean in with your abilities. And then there's Leona. As a mage support, being held in one place for 5 seconds is never a great option for you. She also poses a problem in the later game. If she can see you ulting, she will use her ult on you. That will be her number one priority, so before you pose up for the laser, you better make sure you're prepared to deal with that CC or know that she has her ultimate on cooldown. And then, speaking of CC, can't not mention Nautilus. Nautilus is a problem because, yes, he has a hook and CC, but mainly it's his unkillable nature if you don't have a tank shredding 80 carry. He can just run you and your 80 down like wild animals and take very little damage because of his massive shields. My advice for him is just don't get hooked and stay vigilant. Your passive and ult will shred him later, and sometimes you get lucky and you'll just destroy him right off rip if they're bad. And then there's Senna. Senna is similar to a Pyke, but in a different way. Her heals and invisibility make playing into her very hard, and the extra damage she provides is very annoying. But she is very squishy, so if she makes some mistakes, it's easy pickings. But you have to be aware of their strengths and ability cooldowns. They can kill you if you are looking for kills, and they are looking for it too. And they can actually heal and provide support to their team, whereas you can't. One upside to her, though, is unlike other champions on this list, she doesn't have as much mobility. Sure, she goes invisible, but she's always at the center of her circle, and she holds still often when she's collecting her passive. So that sets her up for you to be able to hit combos on her. It's nice to actually have a champion who is as focused as you are on trying to get kills, because it really kind of turns it into a chess battle almost. You're just really trying to kill one another. Senna's fun, but hard to play against. And then switching out of the supports for a second, Caitlyn. She's not a support, but a good Caitlyn is one of the most annoying things to play against due to her traps and the ability to stay out of your range while also farming safely and being able to respond to any pressure the laners put on. Maybe this is just my bias talking, but if a Caitlyn isn't on my team, I don't want her in my bot lane at all. Your best bet is to just hope she's not super good. When she uses her Q, or if you feel like she's about to, make sure you have yours on its way to hitting her. Pay attention to the sounds, and you'll get that sweet, sweet dopamine release I was talking about earlier. So this is not a guide video. I think I've said that a couple times now, but I have to address the Vel'Koz combos a little bit. So the most simple of all of his combos is just a really quick Q, E, W into an R. And you can manipulate that in any order you want to. You can reactivate your Q early to split it, and you can maneuver in a way that it makes your W tick twice. Your W does a decent bit of damage, but its main focus is to build up your passive to make sure that you're doing that true damage burst and setting up your ultimate to do the majority of the damage in the game, honestly. But something that people forget about is your E and W interact in a very good way, but people try to telegraph what they're doing too much. You can use some animation canceling. I don't know how else to explain that, but you can really use your E in a way that can catch your opponents off guard with an animation cancel into your W. And it's really nice. You can get it at the very edge of your range, and then you can just go all in with your combo then. And it's worth noting that it does knock people a certain direction. So keep that in mind with your E-W combos for that burst of true damage. And once you're ahead a little bit, there's several ways that you can play that will help out your team. If you have deep vision and your team is trying to take Baron or Dragon, that's awesome. But It's time for you to practice the forgotten and misunderstood art of zoning, applying pressure around what you want so that your team can do what they need to do while you are being a threatening enough presence that they can get it without having to have a direct fight on them. You can kind of put yourself in a line between your enemies and what your teammates doing. You don't need to be hitting Dragon or Baron, wasting your time with your abilities. You do flat true damage and have somewhat long cooldowns, and I found that sitting away from my team and zoning the enemy off in their own jungle, giving my team space, is the most effective use of my time. And sometimes I can lock down the enemy team long enough that my team not only takes the objectives, but then they can rotate and take out the battered enemies, and we get several kills as well without even having a flank happen to us. Or even better, I just kill the enemy team myself without really being in too much danger because I am an artillery range. You can stay out of range of the enemies and kill them as long as you have vision, but that's kind of your job as a support. Or if you're doing this, you probably already have hypershot focus, so you can see them all. I have mentioned multiple times that Vel'Koz is a weaker champion, and he is, and it can be very frustrating to play him, especially with a super hyper mobility that's going on in League right now, and everyone having a shield, a heal, and 6 dashes. It can get very frustrating because he's so simple. You feel like you're playing with less tools in your toolbox than other people, and in a way, you are. But a lot of the times, and you've probably heard this quote before, with restriction comes creativity. It really allows you to do different things with him that you can't do with other champions, and that is where a lot of the enjoyment that I have comes from, because you're playing on a back foot a little bit by playing a immobile artillery mage, but because of that, you can find ways to play him that's different from everyone else. There's nothing that you have to do on him. It's really just as much as what you would like to do, and he's all skill shot based, and every matchup is different, and then your knowledge of the game comes in handy so much more than just having an overloaded champion when you're playing someone who is as mechanically simple as Vel'Koz, and that can be really nice and a really enjoyable way to express yourself. Again, this wasn't a guide or anything. It was just me trying to gush a little bit about my favorite champion and why I like him. So hopefully this helped someone else, inspired a little bit to pick him up and give him a shot. Take him bot lane, take him mid, do whatever you need to do. He's a lot of fun. I can't recommend him enough. And have a good day. Thanks for watching the video, but like I said, I'm not a video editor, and I am a very average player in the game. So the game footage that you're watching there is just one random game that I picked to record. I'm not a video editor, so I wasn't able to do anything cool, and I didn't have a lot of time to just cycle through tons and tons of games and play a bunch of games and record all these games and then video edit them down. But I am trying to get into it a little bit, so maybe that's something I'll do in the near future. It's just the first video that I've made, just gushing about my favorite champion, and I do really play him more than anyone else. So thanks for watching. Try to be a little nice in the comments if you can help it, because like I said, I'm just an average guy, don't know how to video edit very well, just trying to talk about my champion. So thanks for watching. Everyone have a good day, and please give him a shot. He's a lot of fun, and I can't recommend him enough.